Meet us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google+. Hey guys, this is Phil from UnderCage.com, and this is Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. It comes in two different versions. Finally, there's been a rumor all the time that the next Galaxy is going to come in two versions and the next LG is going to come in two versions. Now it finally came with two versions. This is Galaxy S6 and the S6 Edge. This is called Zero Flat, Zero, they're the internal code names. Anyway, let's take a look at the Edge version of it. It's got the fanciest specs that you can find with the QHD display and then the Exynos 7420 octa-core processor, 3GB of RAM, all the things that you want. But let's take a look at the design first. Alright, and first it's got a 5MP front-facing camera with the speaker and the sensors, and the 5MP front-facing camera does an amazing job. It takes amazing photos. We're going to look at that later. And the 5.1 inch of a QHD display is an AMOLED panel covered with the Gorilla Glass 4 that's very, very sturdy. And the multitasking key, home key, and the back key resides under the display. And the fingerprint sensor over here is the aerial one instead of the scroll that we found on the Galaxy S5. And it works so much better. We believe that Samsung had known that the Area 1 is better, but they probably took a time to get around with the patent from Apple. Probably. I don't know what's the real deal is. On the right, you find the power key. Power key used to be on top here on the Galaxy Note Edge, but they moved it down here. It's obviously a lot easier to tap on that rather to reach on top of it. But you'll find yourself barely using it anyway. The fingerprint sensor works quite well. And on top, you got a nano SIM card tray. There's only one SIM card tray, and you can't find a micro SD card slot. You can't put in a micro SD card. What is that for an Android? It has 32, 64, and 128 gigabytes of storage, but 64 is usually the one available for most of the areas. 128 gigs are not available in all the areas. So if you are, find some of the lacking storage, you'll leave yourself to the cloud services, which is not exactly the complete answer to lack of storage. On the left, you got a volume rocker separated and micro USB port, the earphone jack, and the speaker hole. Back, you have a 60 megapixel camera and the heart rate monitor sensor and the flash and everything. And there's a carrier logo, Samsung logo, and the back is glass as well. Finally, Samsung is using the glass for back and the front, covered with the metal finishes, and it feels amazing. It feels really sturdy and premium on the end. I rarely say this to Samsung devices, especially Galaxy recently, after seeing the Galaxy S5. Look at the improvements at the Galaxy S5 and the Galaxy S6. They're in the same gold color, but the Galaxy S5, the bandage, looks like a huge problem, and it was. And this colors constantly changing on the Galaxy S6 Edge and the Galaxy S6 are quite amazing. Enough with the praise on the design, but seriously, this is something that Samsung has done right very rarely in quite a few years. All right, let's get into the size comparison. There's a lot to cover. Stay with us. There's a Galaxy S5. It's a dummy, but it should do the job. There's an iPhone 6, dummy 2. And you can see the design changes. And if you want to bring another LG, here's an LG. And that's pretty much it. If you want to compare with the flat one, here's a flat one. And the back side of it. Alrighty. And then let's get into the details inside the software. So you can tap and hold on that fingerprint sensor. You don't have to scroll it around, but you can just tap and hold on it. And then there's the sensor. And here's the lock screen, and here's your notification bar, and here's the, as usual, Samsung TouchWiz. They refined it a lot. They actually said that they're aiming to make it faster by optimization. But it seems like there's been quite a problem with the optimization in the terms of Samsung's and mine. What I figured was that they're going to retain all the features and make it faster, but apparently what Samsung thought was to take out all the features that people rarely use, or even ones that people do use, and make it faster. So over here, here's an edit button. So you can edit the icons, move the icons around, and there's no alphabetical order. You can change the order, or you can hide the icons. The function is available in most of the regions, but in specific regions, notably South Korea, the alphabetical order is not here. It's just gone. And you can't hide the icons. And another thing that I found very annoying is that there's a backlit over here, the keys over here, and they're gonna turn on each time you press them for 2 seconds, and they're gonna be turned off. And I can't set it. In previous Galaxies, including the Galaxy Note 4, there was an option that I can set it. There is no option that I can permanently turn it off or make it constantly on at all. So I have to watch it getting turned on for 2 seconds every time I tap it, and then I have to watch it getting away. And that's completely annoying. So there's a few things that Samsung did take away and make in order to make the things faster. It comes with the Android 5.0.2, that's the Lollipop, and it works pretty flawlessly. It's actually pretty fast, pretty snappy, and I was very happy with using it, except for a few problems that I mentioned before. The basic thing about here is that it's fast enough due to the software, but also to the hardware. The hardware, I'm talking about the CPU and the RAM. The RAM comes with the 3 gigabytes of RAM, but it's not exactly spectacular. You know, all the phones have a 3 gigs now. All the expensive ones at least. But that Exynos 7420 is amazing. It's blazingly fast. It's a big little architecture octa-core processor, and it works flawlessly. It does generate some heat around here. It gets a bit hot, but it seems like that's the thing with all the other the flagship phones nowadays. But the thing here is Snapdragon 810 processors, and those equipped with the Snapdragon 810 like the G Flex 2 or the HTC One M9 get hot and get throttled a lot. So it's gonna result in a slower phone. But the Exynos, although it does generate some heat, stays with the same performance all the time. So that's one thing that I really like. And that UFS 2.0, that's the storage inside this guy. That's the flash storage. It's ultra fast. Not even when transferring files into this guy, but when you're backing up your apps, when you're installing it, it's ultra fast that you will really be surprised. All right, enough with the hardware and the geeky thingies. One of the things that you might wonder is the camera and the multimedia functions. So one of the things that you can do right now is that you can tap twice, and right here you have the camera, and you can switch to the front-facing camera, which takes amazing photos. It's the best front-facing camera that I ever seen, and you can just tap on there, and you can take your selfie. When you're looking at yourself, you can tap in that. So those are the things that what can camera do. Let's take a look at some samples. So samples do look amazing, and they, on the low lighting condition, especially the front-facing camera, takes amazing photos. What about the sound? The speaker over here makes amazing sound, especially for Samsung. Samsung is not exactly known for their sound quality in the speakers, but it being moved to the bottom, not the back where it covers off and muffles around, the speaker quality is actually pretty good. It's not as good as the iPhone 6, but it's still a lot way better than the previous Galaxies or any other Android phones, to be honest. And one of the things that Samsung has compromised to make that unibody metal front glass back, just in words, fancy design, was the battery. It comes with the 2600 milliamps of battery life, and the battery life compared to battery capacity is not exactly great. All right, I'm getting the sweaty hands. And battery only lasts about, the screen on time lasts only about 3.5 hours to 4.5 hours. That's not good at all. Even in the absolute value, most of the phones, especially the Galaxy S5, which was right before this, had longer than 5 hours of the screen on time. It often managed to live around 6 hours of screen on time, and it only retaining 4.5 hours is not great. It's actually pretty bad as a flagship device. It does have the latest processor and the QHD display, very high resolution, but still, we don't really care about that. We care about the battery life. So that's a little disappointment. As a way to fix that, Samsung did include the fast charge functionality over here and the ultra power saving mode. It does charge fast. Let's take a look at that too. That was pretty quick, but of course there are compromises. The charging battery fast doesn't really give you a fast interchangeable battery back, so you'll have to choose wisely. Last but not least, there is of course that Edge display. We should have dealt with that fast, but I wanted to keep it to the last thing. Okay, with the Edge display, there are not exactly much of the functions that you can use, since the Edge on the Galaxy S6 Edge is not exactly for the functionality, but for the design. Well, the design at least looks pretty good, especially my favorite part is where the apps flow from the side of the screen. I like the way it curves and comes around to the screen. But aside from that, it does have some functions. If you go to the settings, there's one called the Edge screen, and you can set up the people on Edge and the Edge lighting. All right, so people on Edge and the Edge lighting lets you set up the people, your favorite contacts, up to 5 people into your people's Edge, and when your phone is flipped upside down and when there's a call or message from those people, there's a floating light on the Edge screen. I don't really find that useful because I don't exactly have my phone flipped upside down all the time. But especially when my phone is Edge, it's got an amazing design. Why would I want to flip it? But of course, there are people who do that. The information stream is another thing. This was also on the Galaxy Note Edge, so you can swipe fastly over on the Edge screen and there's an info stream. I don't think that's exactly an intuitive way to turn the info stream on, but you can. So let's do that back. And there's an info stream, and you can scroll back and forth to look and read into the notifications or the news if there is anything. And you can tap to open that directly. To open and get to that news directly. Okay, those are the Edge functionality, and there is of course the night clock when your phone is turned off and when it's in the nighttime or any particular time that you set up. There is a streaming clock on your Edge screen, and it's gonna look just like that, just in a dim fashion. So the screen doesn't really have much of the things to tell. The functionality wise, it's not exactly a big deal. And they really got to work on the fingerprint sensor when you got a sweaty hands. So I'm just gonna type in the password. Okay, so that's the basics about the Galaxy S6 Edge, and there's a reason why I constantly say that this phone is amazing. They did everything they could that they could have put in a phone. They had the latest processor that works flawlessly. They have a very, very spacious RAM. They have a high resolution display that is VR ready. By the way, Gear VR is completely amazing. And they have the built-in battery. That's not a good thing. They got 128 gigs of storage without the microSD card. That's not a good thing either. So overall, Samsung has done an amazing job, mostly on its design. Design-wise, again, it's a huge improvement from the Galaxy S5 or any kind of predecessor. But in the meantime, this does have some drawbacks. Its battery life is very disappointing, and you can't change the battery, and the storage is limited to 120 gigs where it's available. You can't have the micro SD card, and the pricing differences within the storage upgrades are actually pretty stiff. I'm pretty sure that Samsung has learned that from Apple. Kudos to Apple. And it's quite pricey phone in the same time. But what you might wonder if you chose to get on Galaxy S6 is whether to get the S6 or the S6 Edge. My answer is if you can afford it, S6 Edge is the completely better way to get you the latest tech of the year. Of course, that sounds very obvious, but especially with the Edge Display Premium, it is worth it. It's definitely worth it. It looks completely new, and it's something that you have never seen on any other smartphone. So it's worth it, but it still is an expensive phone. So it's an amazingly well-built phone with some drawbacks, and those drawbacks are pretty big with the battery and the capacity unable to be expanded through the microSD card. So if you're okay with that, you can get it. If those are somewhat a problem for you, but Edge Display and the Display Premium, Design Premium is probably going to compensate for that. Look for yourself. This is totally different on the screen and in the real life. So drop by your local stores if they have one. Take a look. You'll find yourself amazed by this amazing new tech. All right, so that was Galaxy S6 Edge, and there are other colors as well. So we strongly suggest you to go watch for the other colors as well. That was S6 Edge, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.